All right, so I'm a little bit under the weather today. Have been kind of floored, but this was a huge story that I really wanted to talk about. So I sound a little bit different because of being sick and whatnot. But let's go ahead and get right into it. This is a huge story. So Ubisoft, or Ubislop, as I often like to call them, whenever they screw up, screwed up yet again because they cannot resist it. So what they have done is they have shut down their Halifax studio with the 71 jobs on the line. And the reason why they did that, believe it or not, is because they unionized. And they just happened to coincidentally shut down the studio the day after the unionization was completed. This is an ongoing effort. Now, this is not exactly like the biggest Ubisoft studio by any stretch of the imagination. They have laid off people at Red Links and Massive Studios previously, which I understand Red Links does like the trials games, like the motorcycle games where you do the ramps and tricks and stuff like that, different maps. And then Massive, of course, I believe they worked on the Division games as well as the Avatar game that just recently came out. And Ubisoft Halifax was working on mobile titles for Rainbow Six Siege as well as Assassin's Creed. And so I guess because they're shutting those down, I'm sure they're going to use the excuse of, oh, we feel like the business is changing on the mobile market. Maybe these games aren't going to be profitable like we hoped. And so that's why we closed it. Is that the reason why? You tell me what you guys think on that. But of course, I think the game industry as a whole has been doing this unionization push too little too late because we've got the AI thing going on here. A lot of jobs are going to be affected. And this is only the first of many layoff announcements that we're going to be hearing about this year because of the rising crunch that AI is going to push on the industry as a whole. Now, there are some companies out there that have unions like ZeniMax Media, of course, our good old friends that manage Bethesda titles like Doom and Elder Scrolls, Fallout, and so on. They are, from what I understand, the largest video game union currently. They're, of course, under Microsoft's umbrella. And, you know, for better or for worse, I think things are doing pretty decently at Bethesda. The quality isn't quite as good as it used to be, but they're still selling games. There's still a lot of huge fans of their projects. And so they can afford to unionize, obviously. Microsoft knows that they have some talent there and they have a lot of good people working under that company. So they kind of had to concede. There's several other companies as well, like Sega, that have unions at some point of their company. And of course, there is an organization, Game Workers Unite, which has been leading the push to unionize these different game studios. And like I said, it's a little too late because we're getting to a point where like the game industry as a whole, for the most part, I would say for probably at least 95% of the people that work in the industry, they do not have safe jobs. They are essentially contracted work. Um, Many game developers, they will get laid off once their portion of the game is complete. You think about all the different people that work on these games, the artists, the programmers, you got people that do stuff with motion capture, voice work, sound effects, everything that goes into making a game. And, given that some of these games take several years to develop now, sometimes up to 10 years, like certain things are going to be done much sooner in the pipeline. And then what are those people going to do at that point? It's not like that studio's like, oh, we need to keep this artist around. even though we finalized the art for the game probably about 3 years before launch. No, no, of course not. That's not what's going to happen. The artists, if they're lucky, they're going to be shuffled into another project. If they've got another project in the works to help out with that. Oftentimes, that's not the situation, though. Oftentimes, they may be laid off and have to find employment at another company and basically start all over again with no seniority or anything like that. They will have some experience on their resume, and I'm sure that helps them out in various things. But that's kind of why a lot of these people are pushing for a union. And I would say, like, this constant shuffling of employees is part of the reason we've seen a decline in a lot of the AAA games because people, they get their experience, they get their knowledge, they get their camaraderie with their fellow associates, and then they basically have to start all over, oftentimes having to work with a completely different engine from the last time they worked. And like, they're not really getting the full utilization that they could as a result of this. And that sucks. It really sucks. And especially with the push of trying to make everything more AI generated, AI focused, there's not going to be as much of a need of people to begin with. And so, yeah, good old Ubislop. Shame on you guys. Shame on you. So I hope you guys like this video. If you happen to enjoy this video, of course, be sure to check out the last one I did. And also on the other corner, the algorithm's going to send you something fire. So definitely take a look at that. And don't forget to subscribe if you happen to enjoy videos like this. That's going to be the last line.